Hello and welcome to the Franchise Marketing Show. The video or the podcast you're about to watch or listen to was recorded at the British and International Franchise Exhibition at Olympia. It was a very busy event, so there was a little bit of background noise, so it wasn't filmed in a recording studio or anything like that, but it is a really interesting conversation. Hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to the Franchise Marketing Show.
Thank you.
We are live at the British and International Franchise Exhibition. How are you finding things?
It's been a great couple of days, I've got to say. It's very different from the NEC show, I must say. We have had some really wonderful conversations, got deeper with people, and some really interesting discussions from people from very various backgrounds. So, really enjoying it. It's my second show, I've got to say.
Okay.
So, yeah, not done loads of these.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So before we get into things, do you want to just introduce yourself for those who don't know who you are and where you're from?
Yeah. So I'm Amrit Dhaliwal. I'm the CEO and founder of Walfinch. Walfinch is a home care franchise. I have been in the home care industry for over 10 years. I started as a franchisee and then built my business, sold it, and became a franchisor. So
wow, that's an interesting journey.
It's been fun. And that's code for very painful, you know?
I was reading between the lines. So, Amrit, how did you get involved in franchising?
Like most good things in my life, my wife told me it was a good idea, you know? So I was in restaurants. I basically came out of university, worked for about 8 months, realised I was totally unemployable, and got some funding together, got involved in restaurants in Richmond, not a million miles from here. And I was doing that for quite a while, and my now wife, then girlfriend, is a dentist, working 9 to 5. I was very 5 to 9, and I said, look, you know, I want to do something different. I'm never around. Monday nights are date nights. What could I do? She said, have you thought about domiciliary care? I was like, what the hell is that? Next thing I know, I'm speaking to all the different franchisors around the country, bought a franchise, and I thought, oh great, you know, this is what I need to do. I need to fix care. And as soon as I got involved in it, I realized that the real mission that I had was to fix franchising within home care. Franchising within home care really hasn't changed much in 20 years in the UK. And I just want to bring that whole model into the 21st century, making a much more nuanced business model for people from any industry to be able to come in and get entrepreneurial success through a system that is paperless, tech-driven, and just with the right support team. And that's where Walfinch was born.
Okay, so here you're obviously involved in conversations. How are you portraying that element of what you do? Because obviously there's quite a few brands around you. So
I think I'm just very honest with people. We say no a lot to prospects. So I think last year we said no to about 16 people thrusting a check under our nose, and actually I think that's the right way. You know, it funnels down quite a bit. So we have a huge amount of people that contact us. You know, a couple hundred people a month, and out of that, I'll probably only meet 2 or 3, 5 people at most, because we have a vetting process, and it whittles that whole thing down, and then I end up saying no to about 50% of people that I meet with. Not for, you know, sometimes it's just because the chemistry isn't there and so on, or they're not necessarily as well funded, or probably need a bit more experience with management and so on. But sometimes I think they could be right for a different brand, and I'll sort of point them in that direction. The values just might not align. And I try to get that message across here, saying, look, you know, we're not about flogging franchises. We're about building good quality, long-term relationships. And if you don't fit with us and we don't fit with your value set, it's not right for you, because, as you said, there's a lot of brands out there, and there's something for everyone. You know, there is the culture is different in all of them, and it's really, you know, I'd say buy that rather than anything else. Buy the culture.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite an important thing that you've just said, is the fact that the franchise industry has a lot of options.
Yeah.
And it's not about trying to force people square peg, round hole, all of that kind of thing.
Yeah, and so many people do try to do that, because, you know, it's very interesting to just say, oh, I'm just going to flog it and build the hell out of it. But actually, I just don't think that's the right attitude within franchising. I spend a bit of time in the States, and they do franchising really well. I'm at the International Franchise Association's annual conference in a couple of weeks in Phoenix. And it's all about best practice. And one of the big things that they always drum in is, I went to their merging conference a year before last in Nashville. And it was all about getting to royalty sufficiency, and for them that's about 100 units. I'd probably say that's invariably half that in the UK. And you do that by not making the wrong decisions, because otherwise you'll get sidetracked in trying to deal with poor performance or trying to exit people and so on. And it's too much energy, and it takes away from good quality franchising. So really just try to make better decisions on the recruitment aspect, I think.
Yeah, which is quite interesting, the fact that you are at the exhibition, you're able to see people face to face. So is that helping the recruitment process for you?
I mean, if I'm allowed to say it, it just cuts the crap. They see us, we see them, they think, oh, like him, oh no, he smells a bit, let's get rid of him, on to the next one. And you can just sniff out who's interested in you, who you're interested in. And there might be some people that you think, well, we've been speaking to them online and so on. You meet them in person, so on. I said, look, actually, I don't think they're right for us, and they might be better for another brand, and vice versa, I'm sure. But the other thing it does is it allows people. I had a conversation with someone, and they run a bakery business in Wales, and we're looking at other retail premises. And we started talking about, home care and franchising. Initially, they were like, oh, I'm not really sure about that. And then when we got into it, I thought, actually, hold on a second, this could be a really interesting place for us to, change direction. That would never happen online, and it would never happen in a different format to this. So I'm really interested in shows and having that, very personal conversation. I love, the kind of interaction. I really enjoy it. It kind of gets me going.
So would you say that that's one of the biggest benefits for you being at the exhibitions? And
totally. I mean, there's obviously the exposure piece and so on, but having that kind of, that belly-to-belly conversation, that is where it's all at. And I think that's franchising. It's all hearts and minds. It's all psychology. It's all getting to know people and getting right under the hood. And that is it. That is franchising, right? So 100%. If we did one of these every week, I'd much rather that, than doing all the online stuff personally. I think this really gets to the heart of the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And as you say, it cuts out a lot of the fluffy stuff that you have to go through.
Totally.
You said that this is your second franchise exhibition. What was it that made you decide, that worked really well for us first time around, we need to come back?
First of all, I really enjoyed it. I'm very big on making decisions that, seem fun. Fun is one of the Walfinch values, and we've had loads of laughs. I mean, it's obviously really hard work, and you're on your feet for 2 days and so on. But we had a lot of bants at the NEC. And
that helps
so,
to pass the time.
we went out for a couple of nice dinners and whatever. It was good fun, just getting the whole team together and just shakes up the kind of routine for everyone. So I think I really enjoy it, as a team really enjoys it. And yes, of course, we took a couple of new franchisees on from the last one, so we know it works.
Excellent.
And so it's that, really. It's a combination of saying, yes, it works, but also it's quite fun to do.
Yeah, and you get that quality, don't you, over the quantity?
Definitely. And you speed up the process for them and you. Because, invariably, someone might not meet me for a couple of months. But here, it just cuts that out. We've done that. We're sort of speed dating, aren't we? And it's quite nice. So
speed dating or franchising.
Hey, maybe that's what it needs to be called.
That's the new
right?
way.
It could be something that we do within the home care sector. I think just get all players there and just speed date with all the prospects. You've got 1 minute, go, right? So might be something for the next show.
That'd be quite interesting.
I think
to
Coconut could facilitate this.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Never been speed dating, but
that's, no padlock parties or anything. Just speed dating. Right?
Amrit, you mentioned earlier that you've got values, and you're quite selective in who can join the network and the brand. What kind of franchisee are you looking for? Who is it that would really make the cut for your brand?
So, I think, yes, the hygiene factor of someone properly funded and so on, because I think a sure way to failure is not being properly funded, and it really worries me when franchisors allow people to come on board when they know they're not properly funded. But putting all of that stuff aside, chemistry is very important. Because you're going to have crunchy conversations over time. That's going to happen, and so somebody that you think, right, I can really get on board with this person and so on, and get to know them. I was reading this book, or rereading rather, by Kim Scott, Radical Candor, and it's all just about getting to know someone to then be able to have the honest conversation. And I think franchising is very much of that.
Yeah.
So can I do that? Can the team do that? Are they resilient? Because certainly that first couple of years is brutal, and until you get to cash flow positive and profitability, the emotional aspect of it is really quite something. Yeah. So can we get there together? Do they have that skill set? And are they teachable? So if they don't already have the management skill, are they teachable? Because if they are, we've got a phenomenal system. We know it works. We've got some amazing people. I'd like to think that we've got some of the best franchise support team in the country, and that really excites me, because I was a franchisee, and actually the guys that are supporting our franchisees had been supporting me when I was a franchisee, probably wouldn't have sold my franchise, right? If I'm really honest, would have become a multi-unit franchise.
Yeah.
So I think so much of it is about that whole thing. It's the system meeting the culture, meeting the people.
So would you say, based on that you have taken the lessons from when you're a franchisee and using them to kind of develop your brand and develop yourself as a person?
I think every day of the week it is me understanding how it feels to be in the shoes of the franchisee. So when we're having management meetings, it's kind of pretending that there's a little chair there with the franchisees all on that chair, and we're talking to that chair. That is really the whole thing. Because if we're not doing it to build value or to build revenue for the franchisee or to help them with their asset value later, what on earth are we doing? To not put the franchisee at the center of the conversation as a franchisor is, forget about it being irresponsible, but it's just not good franchising.
No. Amrit, what is the goal for Walfinch? What is it that you really hope to achieve over maybe the next year or the next few years?
That's a lovely question, Steph. So for me, I think the long-term goal is to get to about 200 plus locations in the UK, and we'll do that in the next 6 or 7 years. We're sort of on track for that. To plant a few flags internationally as well. But I think the mission is about changing the lives of our stakeholders, and our stakeholders are the care workers, and having good employers. That means that you can really change their lives, and you truly can. The clients, and I've been thinking a lot about longevity and thinking, well, okay, I was having a conversation with our head of compliance. I was like, can we get an occupational therapist that works with us to help build actual muscle strength for older people that has a direct correlation with longevity and so on, and how would we do that safely and so on. So really thinking about how we add value to that. But for us as a franchisor, the most important party, frankly, is the entrepreneur, the franchisee, and building entrepreneurial success. Because I've been there, right? And I've been there, and it's been some things were done well, others not, and so on. But really creating a system that works for them to create the wealthy franchisee, as Scott Greenberg says. Let's really build that up.
Yeah. And in terms of the franchising industry, you mentioned that sometimes you have pointed people in other directions because they're not quite the right fit for you. How do you find that whole support of the franchise industry as a whole for you as a franchisor?
On the whole, I think it's great, actually. I think that so many people are really supportive, and it's a community. We're opposite Teslom, for example, and we've been batting people back and forth, and I'm like, the investment level, and you're more into resourcing, and they're like, you want CQC regulation, go over there, So actually, I think there's, some really great relationships, and I think, I was with Phil from Radfield last night, and we were having drinks and, just talking about the industry and so on, and I think, there is a new generation of franchisor, and I think it's really healthy that everyone knows there's enough to go around.
Yeah.
There's not this sort of insecurity, and we can just all get on, share best practice, and of course we're not sharing IP, but we can share best practice and have that discussion. So I think there's a really healthy relationship and attitude within the industry and sector, and you work more like colleagues rather than competitors. And it's not always the case, of course, but actually on the whole, that is what it is, and I think it's way more fun that way. So
yeah, I'm going to ask you a leading question.
Go on, I love a leading question.
In terms of and you don't have to specifically stick to the care industry and that kind of thing, but within franchising, who would you say has been an inspiration to you, or someone that you admire within the industry?
Leading the witness, right? There's so many people, I think. If you think about internationally, people like Scott Greenberg, Greg Nathan, and so on, authors within the sector, and I've had the privilege of spending some time with the guys, and that, I think without a shadow of a doubt. More locally, my relationship with Simon Mills started in a mentoring relationship, and that was maybe one of the most meaningful things that happened to me within franchising. When I was a franchisee, Neil Farnworth, who was the master franchisor of Home Instead in New Zealand, and he's sort of coached and mentored me when I was a franchisee and a little bit beyond. But even in more recent times, I spent a bit of time with Ryan at Teslon, for example, and he was like, "Oh yeah, get out there and bang out those social media posts." I'm like, "Yeah, right," and stuff like that. So I think there's so many people, and actually even my own team. I look at them and I feel a buzz and inspired by when I'm hearing them speak, or I've got James Boyce over here who knocked out a little video trailer, before dinner last night, and Julie and Richard that are on the stand, and Amanda that's scribbling away at work and getting the compliance done, and it's really just. That is franchising, creating scalability, and so I think there's so many inspirational characters within the sector. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's not a leading question to pull out names. Yeah. It's just to kind of get an idea of what you.
So much. I mean, I think, for example, also the BFA do such a wonderful job. I mean, I've seen that change so much, and as it's been rebranded under Pip, and the work that she's put into it. And I was really fortunate to spend a bit of time with her when we were both in the States last year. And it's just very inspiring to see someone that's been able to move up the ranks like that and do what she's doing. And she invited me on this equality and diversity discussion. And for someone in her position to put conversations like that at the center of the and put it on the table is so important, because people like me, from my background, I'm son of immigrants, and I grew up in Southall and Hounslow. There is a sign outside of Southall train station in English and Punjabi. I mean, that is how immigrant it is.
That's pretty cool.
So to put the diversity aspect at the center of the conversation is just so important. It will help the industry tremendously over years, and I think she's really planting a flag for the future here. So I think some really inspirational characters throughout the whole sector.
Yeah, it's quite interesting you're talking about the diversity, because obviously as a female, that's something that I'm interested in as well.
Totally.
And it's that element of what more can we do to inspire others from other kind of backgrounds, not just the white middle class male, but how can we inspire others into franchising?
It's something that I didn't think of myself as much of a feminist, but I've now got two daughters. One is 4, one is 2, and I am a feminist now. I'm like, women need equal rights, and better pay, and pension gaps can't be a thing, and all
You're
that.
You're preaching to the choir.
It's a real problem, actually. It is a problem that we have, because we are doing token gestures. We need more education. We need more availability. Simple things like, having children means that it puts women really behind schedule in a career. So how do we combat that? There needs to be some real structured thought that goes into that. There is some great talent, and I know because we've hired some of it, and said, well, okay, well, actually you could work remotely and you could do X, Y, and Z. There's some great talent that's out there that is untapped as an industry because of working at-home mums who were working and now aren't because they can't get back into the flow of things as they were. And I think really as a sector we've got great opportunity there of an untapped market, of fantastic people. So it's really about what are we willing to do because it will benefit us, profitable. Yeah. The other thing I think is that there needs to be way more education. There needs to be a pathway for people. So one of the things that I've done recently is I've booked myself in and started talking to kids at GCSE and A-level stage. I was in Hayes on Thursday, just before I came to Olympia to set up, and talking to business studies students about how to run a business, the pitfalls of it, what they could do. There was all these kids that I was in this lecture room and I wasn't really expecting it, to be honest. I was like, this is a bit nerve-wracking. And they were, I was saying, look, who wants to set something up? And they were all putting their hands up and saying, oh, no, I want to do a clothing business, I want to do, real estate, I was like, estate agents, but okay. So, we're having this conversation about how to do that and really making that come alive and saying, look, I grew up like you guys, right? I was state educated, my parents, English was a second language and all of that. It's all possible. Here are the things that you can consume, reading lists and so on. And I think more of us need to do that in a much more structured way.
Yeah.
And that would really help, both in, the kind of male and female issue that we have. I mean, at Walfinch, majority of our management team is female, actually, which is something I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
And I've got 3 older sisters, and my mum was a business owner, and 2 daughters. So it's, I think people need to think about it, and actually I think the decision making is very different and much more nuanced in many ways, and it's not just sort of a blunt hammer approach. It's education and creating opportunity and thinking about it actually in a more collective way. So again, as I said, putting that conversation on the table is a major start to that.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite nice to hear that you're kind of coming full circle. So you've had the mentoring and the support from others in the industry, and you're passing it on to the next generation, going into schools and talking to them. So that's quite nice to hear that aspect of what you're doing as well.
I think it's really important. I went to my own school actually last October, which was surreal because it was like stepping back in time. Nothing changed there, and it just looks like this huge prison, But
and the teacher's still the same.
I mean, you're still here, So, but it was really rewarding because you've got these kids that basically growing up the same way as I did, and the same issues and so on. And they don't have the same level of soft skills, and it's stuff that they'll have to learn because it doesn't come naturally, and it's not something they'll necessarily learn at home. And having that discussion. I mean, one of the things I said to the guys is like, you've got magical powers and you don't know about them. And they're like, what the hell do you mean? And I said, you're the bridge, right? As I can learn how to eat with chopsticks and sushi and all of that sort of stuff, right? I can learn that, and I can learn how to speak to the guy that drives a Ferrari, right? But what is really hard is for the people that were born with the Ferraris to be empathetic to someone that needs help paying for lunch, and that's the difference. And so, I was like, if you can hone in on that and understand how to, associate with people and hone in on those soft skills, it's a huge win. And so, I think there's wins on both sides. I think people from that background have got a real opportunity if it's switched on and it's explained.
Yeah, definitely. Amrit, it's been really interesting talking to you.
Thank you. I've really loved being on. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers.
If anyone wanted to find out about Walfinch, where would they need to go?
So, our website, walfinch.com or walfinchfranchising.com. You can add me on LinkedIn. I'm Amrit Dhaliwal, QFP. And yeah, just pick up the phone to us. We'd love to have a conversation with you. We do quite regular webinars and so on that just talk about how to set up a home care business. And please drop in.
Excellent. Amrit, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Steph. Take care.
Take care.